friends and family of Grace Lutheran Church. Today we're talking about the hymn of the day for the third Sunday of Easter. It's called I Know That My Redeemer Lives, and it's number 461 in the Lutheran Service Book. And if you look at the bottom of the page, you see that our text is written by a man named Samuel Medley, who lived from 1738 to 1799. And he was an English Baptist minister and a hymn writer. Medley began his adult life in the year 1755, so 17 or 18 years of age, leaving his Christian upbringing and joining the Royal Navy. And he served in the Royal Navy until the year 1759, when his leg was severely injured in a battle against the French. A combination of a miraculous healing that occurred the night before his leg was supposed to be amputated, along with a moving sermon that he heard from Isaac Watts, pushed him or led him back to his Christian roots, to his Christian faith, and ultimately, eventually, into being a Baptist minister himself in London. And over the course of his career, Medley would write over 4 dozen hymn texts. This is the only one of his texts that is contained in our hymnal. This hymn is a little bit long. You may notice if you get out your own hymnal and look at it, it's 8 verses, 8 phrase verses. So that means there's 32 phrases, 32 lines in this hymn. And of those 32, 28 of them begin with the words, He lives. That means there's only 4 in the entire hymn, 4 lines that don't start with the words, He lives. That means those He lives makes up like almost a quarter of our entire hymn. And mainly all 32 of those phrases are about a couple of things: who the Redeemer, the living Redeemer, is, and what He lives to do. So there are a lot of things in this hymn, 32 phrases worth of them. We're not going to go line by line, but I just want to give you a couple of things that I find interesting about the hymn before we sing it this week in church. So first, in verses 2 through 7, so only excluding 1 and 8, which by the way are the only verses that contain phrases that don't start with He lives, verses 2 through 7, every single line is its own unique thought. Of course, they're grouped together by themes. For example, in verse 5, He lives to silence all my fears, to wipe away my tears, to calm my troubled heart. And then in verse 7, another theme, He lives and I shall conquer death. He lives my mansion to prepare and to bring me safely to heaven. So sort of grouped together by themes. But ultimately, this hymn is just a big compilation of a bunch of different facts about the risen Lord, about Jesus. So that's the first thing, that we have all of these different thoughts that come together here. And the second thing is that each of these facts comes directly from Scripture. There are only 4 Scripture references listed at the bottom of our page, but if we wanted to, we could probably list 50 of them, even though there's only those 32 phrases of different places where we find these true statements about who Jesus is and what He does. And I love this hymn for the confession that it is. We repeat back to Jesus all through these 32 phrases what He has already revealed about Himself in Scripture. And that's why Pastor picked it for this week. Actually, he handed me a note card that had the hymns on it. And this one, the hymn of the day, he had like a little arrow and some notes, and I was like, oh, that's probably the one he wants me to do the video on. But he wrote in those notes, and he talked to me about later, that he's going to be talking in the sermon about how we as Christians have different minds than the rest of the world. We are enlightened, and our minds are opened to the truth about God and about His creation. Our eyes have been opened just as the Emmaus disciples' eyes had been opened on the road. That's our gospel reading for this week. And we know the truth now. And we get to confess that truth, especially about who Jesus is, in this hymn. So I look forward to doing that with you guys, hopefully this week in church. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys learned something, and we'll see you next time. Bye.